Welcome back to another team recap. This is the season 6 in the Double A Draft League. This team I also piloted with the Glaceon.
Oh,
Um,
that's me.
this team is very interesting because one, neither of us knew we were going to be in the draft league again. Um, I joined at the last second. I built the bare bones of this team and thought, it looks fun. And then, like, almost a week in, after I drafted the entire team, I messaged the Glaceon and went, hey, do you want to do this again? Or, like, nah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, why not? Might as well, because I pretty much, like, we were both just, like, kind of burnt out after the last season. I talked about that a bit in the other one for season 5. If you haven't watched that, go watch it. Um, I'm very good at this whole YouTube plugging thing. But yeah, basically, we just got kind of tired both of the whole, like, constant having to do battles thing, and our team just started not working as well, and there was just, like, a lot of the people on the server were just very, like, go get 'em about this. Like, they were just, like, always on top of it, and it was just kind of intense. And especially for me, it was like my first time, so I wasn't gonna do it again unless I got an invite. And then I got an invite, and I was like, all right, bet. And all of a sudden, I was like back into it. I don't, I don't have an explanation for that one. I was just like, let's go, baby. I also didn't have to do the drafting process, so that was nice.
Yeah, I essentially built this team, and some of it makes sense and some of it doesn't. I didn't. Most of the picks for this team I did not get. Like, I got sniped. So,
Mhm.
um, the bare bones of this team is you won't know it by looking at our Pokemon, but the bare bones was electric terrain, and that's it. That's all I had.
Yeah,
So
so much electric terrain, dude.
yeah, I realized that Pinkerton is very good. Uh, we're gonna start there because that's the basis of this entire team.
Oh my god,
Um,
Pinkerton.
Pinkerton um, has pretty lackluster stats, if I'm being completely honest. It's not a very good Pokemon, but with the ability Electric Surge, it sets up the electric terrain on the field, automatically on switch in. It has okay offenses and less than adequate defenses, if I'm going to be honest, and an
Yeah,
absolutely abysmal speed stat. So, what makes
it's
this thing
so
good is the fact that it gets one move. The one move that it gets is very good. It is Rising Voltage.
bad.
Rising Voltage does double damage if there's electric terrain on the field. So this kind of okay 91 special attack stat would be pulling off a 140 power move, and then that also gets boosted by 30% again because it's an electric train. So this is a base 182 base power move that is absurdly strong, coming
Actually, it was
off of
also
its stab
stab.
typing.
Yeah, it does more. It's like basically base 200, something like that. Like
It's just
it's it was so good for no reason. Like, oh man, like we well, I say we drafted this thing. I didn't do any of the initial drafting, but this thing was on here, and once we realized how good it was, like it was just kind of mind blowing. And on top of that, it gets pretty good bulk. Like defensively, it's at 95 and 91, and its HP stat isn't great, but we ended
oh,
up investing in that a lot.
yeah,
Like we could invest in defenses just because it had such a
yeah.
high
It did
output
so
naturally
much
with
damage.
rising voltage. The one thing we found out is that if something's not grounded, um, then we should have realized this because it says if target is grounded, and we just never put two and two together for a hot second. But you know, if it was like a flying type or something with levitate, it would not do that double damage. But even then, it's still boosted by electric terrain and stab, so it was still a really powerful attack.
Yeah, it is. The trains are really confusing, but
Yeah,
yeah. So this thing was the basis of the team. Um, would you
kind
like?
of.
We used a lot of items on this thing. we would use Choice Specs. We would use Choice Scarf sometimes.
Or
We would use
this,
Focus
you
Sash.
give it
We
a
would
choice
use
scarf, you could actually outspeed stuff with a base 15 speed. It was absurd.
yeah. Um, yeah, we ran this in tandem with a lot of Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon assisted Pincurchin in its quest to become the most offensive defensive Pokemon. But we ran Shucka Berry on this. We ran Assault Vest sometimes. We ran berries on this, Figgy Berry. We ran Citrus Berry. We ran pretty much everything. Basically, just to keep this thing alive for Electric Surge. We also ran Terrain Extender, obviously. And its other abysmal moves that we never clicked.
Yeah, actually Scald we clicked a few times, and Recover was good, but like, this thing has a terrible learn set. Actually, Liquidation we also ran a few times,
Yeah.
I think. Actually, yeah, if we were running a
have no
physical
idea.
set, we would run Liquidation.
I
But
I
there
think
really
we
wasn't
put it on there. I think we ran a physical set once and then it never came into battle.
Probably. But yeah, this thing was really good. But the weird part is, even though it's the basis of our team, we only had one other electric type, which this team's really weird because it has a lot of things that overlap, but not in the way you think. So I'm gonna move on to something that is literally right below it, but is like also disconnected from it. Dusclops. It was our Trick Room mon. The only way it was really connected to Pincurchin was because of the fact that it was a really slow mon. And if we could get up a Trick Room, its rising voltage would be insane. Dusclops was kind of a mix between always like partnered up with something and also standalone. It was the kind of thing where we'd build teams with like half a slow team and half a fast team. So if we ever brought in Dusclops and got off a Trick Room, we could work around it. But if it just died, that was also fine. But Dusclops was really cool because we got a lot of use out of Ally Switch and Frisk. Will-O-Wisp not as much. I feel like we missed it a lot, but that's all I really remember from it. But Ally Switch was really good because it allowed us to play mind games with our opponents, and it was a priority move, right?
Yep, it's +2.
So we would basically, if we wanted to not get hit and get off an attack with something, we could Ally Switch. Sometimes this fell apart if we get stuck on a field and there was something that had a move that hit both of us, and we're just like, shoot, like what do you do there? Because this thing's not going to be hitting anything. It's just going to die. Sometimes it didn't, because the Eviolite is really good when it has a 130 defense and special defense. But,
I'm sorry,
you know, it just... Yeah, it's so bulky, but it just didn't have a good damage output or good moves. A few moves that we did run were like Hex with Will-O-Wisp. We never got to pull that one off really, but it could have worked really well. This thing got Earthquake for some reason. I think we ran that one week.
We ran Bulldoze.
But the main move... Oh, Bulldoze, thank you. That's the one we ran. Yeah, but the main move, or moves I guess we would have used if we were actually going for an attacking set, were Rock Slide and Shadow Ball. Because Shadow Ball stab, so if we only had one move, it would typically be that. But Rock Slide was just a chance to make it flinch. And since this thing could live and just annoy them, it was just another move that made sense on it. And it hit it super effective into a fair amount of things that were good into us. So it was actually a good move.
Yeah. As offensive moves, we ran a bunch of weird stuff. It was essentially the one move that would do the most things to the most Pokemon. So, I remember there was one time where we ran Thunder Punch on it, and we switched into into Pincurchin to set the terrain, and we O-code something with Dusclops. There's max attack Dusclops.
I don't even remember that. What?
I also know that we O-code a Ceruledge with max attack Poltergeist with this thing. It's not a slouch. I mean, base 70 is not horrible, especially with the moves that have the high power or boosted. But yeah.
I know, and like this thing has surprisingly good stats. It's just we never really got to bring out its offensive potential a lot of the time because we were using it to get up Trick Room or Ally Switching. And this thing could honestly still get decked by moves if they hit us with the right thing. But yeah, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, should we go? Yeah, I mean, might as well, right? Trick Room Pokemon. Why did we draft this thing? I don't remember. This is a Clodsire. Um, I don't know why we drafted it, but it has water absorb. This thing is so bulky, it doesn't look super bulky, but that 130 HP is god tier, as well as 100 special defense, and that just made it specially bulky. And then 60 defense complemented by 130 HP just made it really bulky. We ran a lot of offensive sets with this thing for some reason. I mean, you wouldn't think, but we did run some offensive sets. We also ran one of my favorite sets of all time, which was this exact set. I'm pretty sure it was minus Stomping Tantrum and Recover. So it was Toxic, Recover, Protect, Stone Edge, I think is what it was. And this was the one. This was the Pokemon that won us the battle to get to the finals, because it was a Toxic Stall Pokemon. So
that was such a good battle.
yeah.
I can tell you a bit about how this thing got on the team, because I was instrumental in that process. So this thing was a trade for us in week 3, so we would have done it during week 2 and it activated week 3.
Oh, I know why we
For
traded it.
Iron Thorns. Iron Thorns was on our team, not by my choice. I did not want that thing. It was disgusting. I mean, no, I'm kidding. It was one of the original drafts from before I was on the team. Whenever he did the actual team build himself for the drafts, and we just couldn't get anything out of Iron Thorns. Iron Thorns wasn't good actually. Wait, do you remember why it was like particularly bad? I know there was like one reason.
So I know why I drafted it in the first place was to get off Choice Scarf, electric train boosted rock slides, but that just wouldn't work against most people, and it just wasn't defensive enough, and it wasn't offensive enough, and it wasn't fast enough, and like
Yeah,
it just really, it didn't fit.
yeah, its stats were just not good enough, and its moves weren't good enough. There was just nothing we could really do with it, because I'm not gonna lie, Iron Jugs, we'll get to that later, but it just did everything that Iron Thorns was supposed to do, except for the things that we covered with Clodsire, because Clodsire has a really good learn set. It's really bulky. One thing is you can run body press on this thing if you invest in your defenses, even though you have a really high HP
No,
stat. You can
that's what it was. Instead of
really
Stone Edge,
good.
it was Body Press
body
for
press.
Chen Pao.
You're welcome. I'm the best. I saved this recap. And this thing, it gets unaware and water absorb, and it made so much more sense. I'd used it after a whole situation of acquiring a team in a different draft league, and I liked it so much. And then he was talking about things to trade Iron Thorns for, and he said Clodsire, and I was like, that's it. That's the one we're trading, because I didn't even process that was an option.
I remember why
And
we
he said-
traded it.
Why?
Because we're coming against two teams that had the strongest fairy types. One of the teams had Zacian, and the other team had Xerneas.
Xerneas.
And we needed
And this wasn't
something
even
to
the
stop
reason we
them.
dealt with Xerneas, but we'll get to that. But yeah, Clodsire is a really good mon, and I love it. And I was like, yes, we're drafting this. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. So then we drafted it. I love Clodsire.
Alright. We gotta fly through these a little bit faster.
Thanks. It's fine. These ones are faster.
As I say, if you wanna go ahead and start with Scrafty.
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
So Scrafty it's pretty simple. There wasn't a lot of sets we could run on this thing. Even when we got to the finals and we had 3 teams, I think this thing was identical except for like one move of difference. Actually, it might have been exactly identical.
I think it was just the ability.
Yeah. This thing is really, really good, but it doesn't have a lot of like adaptability to it. But it's so good because it has insane defenses, and it gets fake out. Its attack stats are really high. It has stab, close combat. It has intimidate and moxie. We put an eject pack on it. It gets like ice punch and stuff. Like that's something he has on there. It gets the other punches too, right?
Yeah, it gets Dragon Dance, it gets bulk up.
Yeah, and there's so many things you could do to just buff this thing and have it annihilate a team. And Darken fighting is, it's susceptible to a lot of things, but it also hits a lot of things. So stab knockoff as well was crazy. Like this thing was just a beast, and it played really well into a lot of teams. And with the intimidate and fake out on it, it made it really helpful.
Yeah. All right. Next, we have another intimidate Pokemon. Our dual intimidators were both dual fake outers, and that I think is where a lot of our success came from, because you could come in,
Yeah.
intimidate, fake out something, kill something, and then you could switch out and get another intimidate down,
Another-
and then fake out
another-
again, and then parting shot with Torocat. They were just so good. Our Torocat set, very bland. We only deviated from this once or twice. So it was fake out, parting shot, Will-O-Wisp, and then fire type move is really all we ran. We ran with Eviolite 99.9% of the time. The only time we deviated from that was when we used Overheat, and we ran a Jetpack Torocat. A Jetpack Overheat. That was fun.
Yeah. So yeah, they served very similar functions, honestly, and how they messed up other things, and like basically they both disrupted, they both lowered attack stats, they both were able to pivot out like a Jetpack Scrafty and Parting Shot Torcat, and then they were able to hit something hard with a stab move. And it was really cool to have two mons that were so different yet did such similar things for our team, but we could still bring them both because they didn't overlap.
Yeah.
So yeah, next up is Riolu. Riolu's pretty simple. This thing basically just got a lot of support moves, and the main one was coaching. Coaching's just good. It's a good move. There's really nothing else to say about it. This thing could live with a focus sash. It got bullet punch. We put that on there a few times. We never ended up getting to use it really, but it was nice to have a priority move for if something lived with a focus sash and this thing was out. But yeah, coaching was the main reason we used it. It could buff up one of our already really strong mons. There's a couple other cool things we could do, like Follow Me. Or one week we brought Rain Dance, predicting like an exact sequence of events, and knowing they were gonna try and set up the sun, and we just brought out Prankster Rain Dance. You don't have Prankster set on it, but yeah, this was a
What?
Prankster one, so we got
God. What am I doing?
now you look dumb.
My bad.
So yeah, this thing was just a really good prankster one. There's really not a lot to say about it. It was just good. Stats are terrible, moves are great.
We skipped Greninja. I'm going to do the same thing with Semi-Sage for now. I'm going to go down here to our other rockers, I guess. Our other big Pokemon. So,
Yep.
I drafted Victini. Victini doesn't look like it works on this team. And I promise you, I didn't think it would either. I thought I would instantly trade it. But I had a hunch. I had a very little hunch. Terra was restricted in this format, which not only meant, like the season before, that you could only have 4 Pokemon that Terra, but you had to pick the Terras with the Pokemon in the draft. So you couldn't change the Terra to Dark type if you had a Fire type Terra, right? So this thing, with its... I thought that this thing was not as great as it could have been last season, because so many things could Terra out of their weaknesses, but less things were able to tear out of their weaknesses and tear into super effectives because there were less Terras. So Victini, I thought, could be very good because things couldn't get out of the way fast enough. And I think I was right. Do you think I was right?
Yeah, honestly. We didn't bring this thing as much as the last season, but that's because we had more heavy hitters. But when it did come in, it was really good.
Yeah, I love this thing. Same thing as last time. This time we ran a lot more bulkier Victinis this time, where we ran Will-O-Wisp and Citrus Berry. We ran, a lot of Protects. We ran some V-Creates here and there, some Fusion Flares, some Psychics. We ran some more support moves because instead of just having Victini be our strongest, we actually got to pick a restricted that was stronger that Victini could actually support. And that was where this goes.
Okay, so I guess I'm jumping down then.
Can.
Okay, well, I'll talk about the one it supported then. That's a shame. I kind of wanted to talk about Pancake, but, Kieran Black was a beast on our team. Originally you wanted Zekrom, right?
Yes, originally I wanted Zekrom, and the reason I wanted Zekrom was because it got two moves that I loved. It got Fusion Bolt. It got Fusion Bolt, and it got Rising Voltage. And another stab Rising Voltage from a Zekrom would have been pretty insane.
Um, so unfortunately that got taken. So he settled for Kieran Black because it still got Fusion Bolt. This thing it was a blessing in disguise. This thing was beastly on our team. So if you look at its stats, 125 HP, 170 attack, 100 defense, 120 special attack, 90 special defense, and 95 speed. This thing was in the upper speed bracket. Godly attack. That's an understatement, by the way. It was insane. And 125 HP, this thing could live, it could dish it out, it could outspeed, and on top of that, it got so many good multi-hit moves that were stab. I don't, we might have run not loaded dice one time, but this thing with a loaded dice and icicle spear and scale shot just annihilated so many things. And on top of that, it got body press, which with its insane stats does crazy damage. It got like not a lot of great moves. It also got Iron Head. Iron Head was really good for
Iron Head
us.
was huge.
It also got Rock Slide. Like, it didn't get a lot of moves when it came down to it because we were usually limited to only using attack because a lot of like the coverage it would get would be in special attack and it just wasn't worth it when our attack stat was so high.
Yeah.
But we dealt so much damage and the moves we got like worked so well for our team that it just kind of destroyed. And if we wanted an electric type move, we had Fusion Bolt right there.
Yep, that was then boosted by Electric Train. We also ran a couple weird moves on this thing. This thing is not a support Pokemon by any means, but we ran some support moves. There's a week where we ran Light Screen on Kieran. We also many a times
we ended up winning
ran
because of that
Roost.
because they couldn't really do damage.
Yeah, we ran Roost on
Yeah.
it quite a few times, so that was always good. This thing,
Yeah, because it just heals.
yeah. So this thing was very very interesting because paired with Victini, it was an absurd Pokemon. Also paired with Riolu with that prankster coaching to raise our defense and attack stat is insane, and it is the reason that we won the entire draft league. Spoilers.
I mean, no, it's not. What?
So yeah, I'm gonna jump around again, letting you have the Raichu if you want it. I'm gonna go to Iron Jugulus. Iron Jugulus is obviously boosted by Pincurchin. So Pincurchin sets up the Electric Train. Iron Jugulus has Quirk Drive, which boosts its speed or special attack, whichever we wanted to boost. And realistically, we had the freedom to do both whenever we wanted to. Tailwind was a big, big thing on Iron Jugulus. Iron Jugulus has very, very good bulk. It's not like the bulkiest thing in the world, but it's not dying to one hit. I mean, almost 100 HP is a lot. HP is very, very good. It's one of those that grows exponentially. So, yeah, having that high of an HP stat is awesome. Being able to boost your special attack, 122 is already pretty high. Boosted again is insane. Speed stat, with this thing's speed stat, it was able to do a lot of good. Sometimes we ran speed stat and then tailwind just so we could get off a faster tailwind than our opponent. This thing was insane. This thing did have Terra, had Terra Dark, Terra Ground, and something else. Terra Ghost, of course, because it couldn't get faked out. We didn't want to get fake out, so that's why we ran it. At the end of the day, it was awesome. I loved using
This
it.
thing had a lot of really cool stuff. We messed around a lot with speed brackets, or less with speed brackets and more just like how much speed we had numerically. It came down to a lot of calculations on my part that were not very fun to do, but they were so worth it because we could do exact amounts of speed to give us like a speed boost and then invest the rest in special attacks. We could kill something, or one week against that Xerneas team, we ended up doing an exact speed match where we could set up what it was like. What did we even do? It was with Greninja. We
So
had to like under speed with Greninja so that we could get off a Tailwind with Iron Jugs or something, right?
so the play, we called down to the Pokemon not only what Pokemon they would bring, but what Pokemon they'd lead with. So we
And
thought,
what move they used.
yeah, and what moves they use, which is insane. So we led Iron Jugulis and Greninja, two Dark types, into specifically Indeedee and Xerneas. Now, if Indeedee did not use Follow Me, and Xerneas did not use Geomancy, we would lose because a Dazzling Gleam would have killed us both. So what we
would've
did,
been-
is we ran max speed Iron Jugulis and lowered speed Greninja, so Greninja was slower. We ran Tailwind, and then Gunk
just
Shot.
enough to get off the Tailwind. Gunk Shot, they pulled our attention. We ran Protean Greninja, ran just enough attack. And note, there was something out. There was 1 week we ran Covert Cloak. Was that this week or was that
I don't
different?
think so. I think we ran Light
okay.
Orb.
I think
Or
it was a
Wide
different.
Lens.
Yeah, this one was probably Wide Lens. But yeah, we did it just so we could make sure that we got off the Tailwind and we boosted our stats just enough to take out Indeedee and take out Xerneas the next turn. It was so crazy.
So we Tailwinded and Gunk Shot. They followed me and then Geomancy, and the Gunk Shot got redirected into a DD, did a round half. And then Iron Jugulis, since it was faster, it Dark Pulse the Indeedee, getting the kill, and then Greninja Gunk Shotted the Xerneas, getting the kill, putting us up to 4-6 with Tailwind with no Pokemon dead.
Mhm.
No,
It was-
insane.
Love this thing. Terra Ghost was probably my favorite part of it. It was really cool to try and figure out when they'd use Fake Out against us and bring that specifically.
Yeah.
But it also just got really good moves, and Terra Ground Earth Power worked out for us a few times too.
That was one of the reasons why we won again.
True. Alright, Raichu. Raichu was it was a later addition to our team. It was traded in week 7, which is a little over halfway. This was a 12-week format or 11 weeks,
I think
something
so.
like that. Which was shorter than the last one, which was nice. But it also meant there was less time to figure things out. Week 7 was the cutoff for trades. Or week 8, I think, actually. Yeah, week 8 was the last week for trades. And so this one was almost at the end of the trade period, and we traded out for Sceptile. Sceptile had been sitting on our team, and it really wasn't doing anything. The reason it was originally on our team was, Electric Seed to boost stats.
Yeah.
It got Dragon Tail, Solar Beam. Like, it got some... No, not Solar Beam. There's some other move I was thinking of there. But it got some cool moves. But it just didn't... It didn't mesh with our team, especially when we did some of our trades towards the beginning. It meshed even less because it was less centered around electric terrain attacking and more around utilizing it for other things on top of other strategies. So it didn't end up working. And Raichu Alola was such a good pickup. For a second, we traded Zygarde 10%. And then before the trade was officially like locked in, like you could switch the trade was finalized, but you could switch it out for a different mon before the week period was up. Like you couldn't back out, but you could change the mon you were trading for. Call it a typo, I think you did. But Raichu Alola was so much better because it got Rising Voltage, Fake Out, Follow Me, Extreme Speed. We were making it a Terramon, which was crazy because we could boost stuff. I think we put like Terra Ice or something on it.
Yeah,
for some
so
reason.
Terra Ice, so for Bolt Beam coverage. We also put Terra Electric on it for Rising Voltage Annihilation, and then we put Terra Normal for Terra Normal E-Speed.
This thing was just beastly.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It got some cool moves. On top of that, it also got Ally Switch for more mind games. Surge Surfer for speed. One thing we really wanted to try that I don't think we ever pulled off was it was our skill swap or speed swap.
Yeah, we
Speed swap on this thing to take electric terrain speed and put it onto something else, or skill swap and put Surge Surfer on something else. Like There were so many possibilities.
Yeah, I know we brought it one time. We never used it, but it was, God, this thing was such a good support Pokemon with Nuzzle and Knockoff, all these capabilities. The reason we got Alolan Raichu is because somebody had it and traded it, and I immediately scooped it up. I knew it was perfect. So, yeah. Next, we have. I'm going all the way down. I'm going to the. This thing is so good. I think I misplayed with it, drafting it, not because we drafted it and it was bad. No, quite the opposite. We drafted it, and it was so good with body press, and I didn't put Terra Fighting on it. So we ran Terra Rock, Terra Electric, and then we ran Terra Grass. Um, I don't know why I put Terra Grass instead of Terra Fighting,
It was
but
a defensive typing.
yeah, I
We,
mean,
we we debated between grass and something else, but I know that something else was not fighting.
yeah. I know I
And
was
it's
kicking
annoying I've
myself.
never even thought of it.
Yeah. Um, this thing was so good. Clear Body was so good. Intimidates didn't matter. Sturdy was decent. I don't know if we ever got to Sturdy point. This thing was Assault Vested. This thing was Life Orb. This thing was Weakness Policy. This thing was a Citrus Berry. This thing was Chesto Berry, Resto Chesto. This thing was so many things. We ran Body Press almost always. We ran Rock Slide. We ran Stone Edge. We ran Drain Punch. We ran Earthquake. We almost ran Explosion. We ran Hammer Arm, I think, maybe. I know we
Yep.
ran Ice Punch. I know we ran Iron Head, or no, we ran a Heavy Slam. Yeah, we ran so many things on this Pokemon, just because it was so good, and I truly believe that this is probably one of the best Pokemon we picked up, and I think this was one of our biggest keys to winning the entire tournament.
Yeah, this thing came from a long line of trades. So originally we had Boltund on our team. Boltund was really good because it's an electric type, and it got Electric Fang with Strong Jaws and Stab, which is really, really good. But
Yeah.
it stopped working for us as well. It also got Psychic Fangs, which was cool.
It also got
Uh,
Rising Voltage, which is where
True.
we learned how fucking good it is.
I don't know how I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so eventually it stopped working for us as well because it was just kind of limited in what it could do, and if it came up against something it was weak against, it really didn't have anything for it. And in week 7, the Madison Mantines wanted to trade us a Lapras for it, and we knew we wanted to kind of trade it away anyways, so we used that just to kind of like give it like a break weekend to put a Lapras on our team to make people build weird around it when we were never gonna bring it. But then we just traded that Lapras for Regirock once we realized how good it was gonna be.
Yeah,
So
and we got our
that's-
Rising Voltage Electric Train Pokemon and Raichu, so it was kind of a swap
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's like it was that week where we got the Lapras. We also got the Raichu, and we knew that that would be our Rising Voltage, so we didn't really need to worry about covering that, so we could look at Regirock.
Which one do you want to do? There's 2 left. Tier 5 and Tier 1.
I'll talk about Tier 5. Okay,
What?
so
Okay.
yeah. But did you want to? I can talk about.
I
Tier 1.
definitely thought you would want to talk about the Greninja, because I don't know I don't know what you're gonna mention about Sage.
Okay, so Simisage is really interesting. So Simisage has been on our team since the start. It was in the original draft. This thing didn't come a single time. 0 knockouts, 0 deaths. It wasn't on a single team. We drafted this thing after our season 5, where we were like, wow, this thing is really good and it has a lot of like diversity and adaptability. You can bring it on so many teams. It gets so many moves. Spiky Shield's really cool. It can boost its own stats. It gets like it looks really good on paper, and it still does. But it just didn't work out with this team. It wasn't for a lack of trying. There was a few times where we discussed it, and it just never really made sense to bring it, because even when we could have brought it, there was just something else on our team that covered whatever it was going to better, which is honestly a shame because it's a really cool mon and it does so many things. But unless if you like have more thoughts on it, that was pretty much it. It just kind of didn't work out. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't bad for our team. It just wasn't the best option.
Yeah, and we didn't realize until after we were completely done with the entire server
It,
and we'd already been the
it might have
champion.
been like, it might have been like the battle before the final one, but it was right around
Well,
there.
I think we built right for that battle, and we weren't going to
Oh
change
yeah, and then
anything.
afterwards,
And
yeah,
we were
we were
like,
like, wait,
this Pokemon has not. It didn't come to anything.
no, not a single time. And it's not like it was like bad for our team, because if it was really bad for our team, we probably would have traded it away. But I mean, part of it was our other trades were just really good for us, and they made way more sense. But like this thing wasn't bad enough that we could, like, that we should have traded it away, and there wasn't also better options. Like out of the tier fives, I think this is still probably one of our best options.
Yeah.
It just didn't end up working out, and it's a shame, but it was still there, and it still held a presence for anyone who was building against us because of its diversity if they thought too hard into it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
R.I.P. Semi-Sage.
Last but definitely not least, we have Greninja. Greninja, another one of our carries. This time, it could use Battle Bond, which put
Oh,
it up
yeah.
to tier 1 insanely. But we still loved it for the utility that it had with Map Block, as well as the sheer damage output and speed stat that it has for a lot of the stuff. So we literally ran this every single different way that we could have. We ran it physical, we ran it special, we ran it Choice Scarf, we ran it Focus Sash, we ran it Battle Bond, we ran it Torrent, we ran it Protean, we ran every single thing on this thing just to... It just works so well. A couple of the final fights, again, the reason why we won is because this thing was here to save us so many different times. So Greninja, absolutely one of the best Pokemon we could have picked. People,
I mean, it was like one of those ones we brought over from the last season. It's so good. There's not a reason not to.
yeah, I remember when I picked it, people went, "Well, that's not a great tier 1," and I was like, maybe I'll try it out," and then it just was never bad.
Like, I don't know
Ever.
why people think it's not that good. Maybe it's because we've run it for so long that we like know more about how to run it, and it like we have teams that work really well with it. But it's so diverse, and I think the ability to Protean is just so good. And on top of that, it like you can still run, like it doesn't waste a Terra, and you can run other items to boost damage. Like I think that Gunk Shot strategy against Xerneas, I think that's the coolest thing we've ever done with it. And all it took was like it was like a very circumstantial thing, but when it came down to it, it was literally just giving this thing like an attack boosting item, or was it a Choice Scarf? No,
No.
it wasn't, because we protected turn one. It was literally like all it came down to was just giving it Protean and Gunk Shot and investing in attack. Like it's so good. God, I love Greninja.
Yeah, I also think if you look at our team and you just go look at the top Pokemon in VGC right now, you will see absolutely zero of the Pokemon in here from VGC. Whereas everybody else had Xerneas or Zacian
Chien.
or, yeah, Chien-Pao or, a multitude of just Ursaluna, like just
Oh, God,
absurd
Ursaluna was great.
Pokemon. And this
Yeah.
team felt like a band of misfits. Like Pinkerton, obviously not very good, right? Dusclops,
Except it's insane.
yeah, who uses Dusclops? Clodsire. I mean, Torracat and Scrafty, absolutely great synergy. I mean, Riolu's used sometimes. Victini's never
Yeah, there
legal
was-
because it's a mythical.
There was a battle we brought Riolu, and it only had like status moves because of our prankster, and then and then we got daunted, and we had to switch it out.
Yeah. There's, Iron Jugulus, known as a fraud. Regirock, only good in Gen 8 as far as I know. Curran Black, only good in Generation Never. Like, I don't know how we got here. I don't know how we won. But my thought is that nobody else could use our team like we used our team.
Yeah, we ran it really well, and it was a constantly shifting thing where we were doing trades, realizing what we needed, and not taking out the mons that most people probably would have thought were the problem, and instead looking for more unique approaches and opportunities we could find with new cool mons instead of, looking at these mons and going, they're weak, let's just find something that can hit harder, It was more about team synergy and what we could accomplish with a variety of simple strategies that made our team really good rather than doing all this complex stuff or finding one mon to carry our team. And I think that's what made it really, really cool,
Yeah,
And it's like,
challenging.
it's not even like it was even like kind of a fluke that we got to the end. We were on top pretty much the entire time. We technically ended the base season in second place, but that was by a difference of 4. And even then, we sweeped the final tournament. We didn't drop.
We didn't lose.
We lost one game, and it was in the grand finals, which is a set of 3, and that was with our team. That was the gimmicky one. We made a gimmicky team in the final match because we could.
What the hell did we do that for?
It was funny.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's even crazier. So we were undefeated for 8 weeks straight, which meant we were the top dogs for 8 weeks straight, and then we did not drop from first place until the final battle. And then we swept, obviously the winner's bracket and just annihilated there. With this team...
Obviously, we only lost matches at the end to avoid the first place curse because first place never wins.
Yeah, we did that on purpose, definitely.
And we were saving strats too, but it's like...
So is your favorite play the Iron Jugulus Greninja play?
Yes, by far.
Okay, I think...
we bullied them so hard, they changed their team.
Yeah.
They dropped Xerneas.
That is true. Do you want to know my favorite play?
What?
It didn't work as well as we thought it would, but it's still my favorite play. Was Choice Scarf Max Speed Pinkerchin setting up the electric terrain for plus speed, max speed Iron Jugulus with booster speed with Tailwind to make sure that our Pinkerchin with base 15 speed could outspeed a Regieleki.
That's awesome.
That's my favorite play. And Rising Voltage just annihilated.
That's what I was talking about with Iron Jugs. There were so many speed things we could do with our team, and Iron Jugs was really the key to it because we had to control Iron Jug speed in order to get out Tailwind and mess with other mon speed. Like last season, like season 5, we just kind of like set up Tailwind. This time we did a lot of exact calculations, and it hurt my head a lot, but man, it was worth it.
Yeah, I think both the season prior got me into like, how do speed tiers work and how do you judge them? And then this season got me into, okay, well, how do you abuse your own speed tiers to make sure, 1, they don't know about them, and 2, you always know about them. And it just was so good here. There's one strategy that we didn't get to use. Well, there's a couple of niche ones. One of them that we never got to use was Power Herb Ice move on Kyurem. Glacial Lance. Free Shock. We never got to use Free Shock Power Herb, which is kind of sad.
It wasn't worth it, though.
No, it was never worth it, but it would have been funny.
And the thing that was really cool about Loaded Dice, I never got to mention, it broke Focus Sash.
Yeah.
So, like, if we would have used a move like that, and it would have lived, not anymore.
Yeah. It was so much fun.
And there was multiple chances for crits, which was cool.
Yeah. The other one that we never got to use, and I still want to use it to this day, is there's a special attack raising berry, and if you had, I think it's Raichu or Semisage, if you'd fling that berry onto Victini, that would do 10 base damage to Victini, and it would be super effective. That would proc Victini's weakness policy, making it +3 special attack. And then if you Heat Wave cannot miss because it is 90% accurate and Victory Star boosts it by 10%. And then that would make it so it's a +3 heat wave, stab, and can't miss, and it would just
Awesome.
annihilate everything.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah, and we never
I
got to
don't
do
think
it.
there's ever a time we would have gone to be
Yeah.
fair.
And
But
we really didn't play super risky a lot of the times because we were in first and we want to stay in first. So there's a lot of niche things that we didn't do with this team that I don't really remember.
yeah, no, there was a few things we discussed in team builds that might not have made it into the team building videos just because of the fact that we discussed it like afterwards. We were like, we need to run this one of these weeks, and then it got to a point where we were at like week 8 or 9, and we were like, we're never gonna run these, are we? Just
Yeah.
like
Scrap
we
'em.
knew it wasn't gonna happen, but at the same time, you gotta do what you gotta do to win. And like, it's not like we didn't play risky in the fights when we had to. We had to make some gut calls that ended up paying off a lot of the time. But whenever we were team building, we tried to make it so we could maintain control as often as possible, whether it be with speed or by OCOing. There was a lot of specific calcs and specific setups that we did on this team, and it was really cool.
One of my other favorite plays that we made was Trick Room, I think. I think it was Trick Room, and we had Victini on the field and Pinkerton, and we rising voltaged into a Duskanoir, and we O-code it from full, and then we V-created a Curum, and it O-code from full.
Yeah,
Oh.
Trick Room was. There was that one battle where there was like 20 turns of Trick Room. That one was
Yeah.
a bit crazy. But it was a lot of thinking with this team, and that's why I think we're the only two people who could have pulled it off, because both of our brains separate wouldn't have been able to run this team. I'm positive.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of like 5-minute debates over single turns where we'd end up just double protecting because we spent so much time discussing possibilities for that turn and the future. Like, there was so much thought that went into this team, and unfortunately we're both huge nerds, so that's the only reason it worked.
Yeah, I love it. I think this team is a lot of fun. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about it?
I can't believe we didn't know about the Colbur Berry until the final tournament. There's no shot we didn't have a Colbur Berry on Dusclops until the final tournament.
What mostly ran Eviolite?
Yeah, I know, but Eviolite was also really good on Torcat, and if we didn't have that, we were like, oh man, what do we run? And we never thought to use the Colbur Berry. We're just
Yeah,
stupid.
I don't remember, but yeah. We also ran it for knockoff because it wouldn't knock off the berry.
True. Anyways, yeah, that's it.
All right,
I was
thank
happy
you
with
guys.
this team.
Yeah, I love that. This team is crazy to me.
Mhm.
What a stupid team.
It shouldn't have worked, and it worked so well.
Yeah. All right, well, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Do everything the YouTube is telling you to do, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.